Okay, thank you all for coming. Welcome today's witnesses. We're here today to talk about Bill S-398. The bill would increase or establish new efficiency standards for nearly 20 types of appliances.
In March 2011, there was a constitutional showdown on Capitol Hill. In an Energy Committee meeting, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky charged that federal regulations violated his freedom to choose a toilet. And he had some choice words for the bureaucrats who write those regulations.
I really find it troubling, this busybody nature that you want to come into my house, my bathroom, my bedroom, my kitchen. Frankly, my toilets don't work in my house. And I blame you and people like you who want to tell me what I can install in my house, what I can do.
I can help you find a toilet that works.
Are you going to pay for it? Everything costs more. To go back and retrofit the toilets that don't work, that no bureaucrat understood or flushed before they made us use them. You busybodies always want to do something to tell us how we can live our lives better. Keep it to yourselves.
Is Rand Paul right? Is the federal government going too far? Or do federal regulations like these serve a purpose? I need to talk to a toilet expert, Cheryl Krause at the Thomas Somerville Showroom.
This one is a dual flush. And you'll notice up here it has two little buttons.
Yeah.
The smaller button will flush 0.8 gallons of water. The larger one, 1.6 gallons.
Do you need a real rush of water? Can you press both and get super flush? Or does that not work that way?
No, it's still going to flush the same thing.
But is the maximum still 1.6 gallons?
Yes, it is.
Interesting. So this law was passed in 1993, and it decreed that any toilet sold after a certain date in 1994 would have to be 1.6 gallons of flush. There was a period of time in which toilet technology hadn't yet caught up. If you were one of those unlucky people who renovated your bathroom or built your home, you were stuck with an inadequate toilet that didn't do its job, and it really was the federal government's fault.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of the consumers out there, that was a tough time. It was a tough time for us as retailers as well.
Because you were selling toilets that people didn't really work for people.
Right.
It says that there's an exception for blowout toilets. You get 3.5 gallons per flush under the next law. What is a blowout toilet, and where can Rand Paul get one?
Okay, that's really a commercial toilet. That's
right.
Not something that you would normally put in your home. Now,
I'll say speak for yourself in that regard.
Right.
Seriously, when you get right down to it, Rand Paul may have a point. Because when it comes to regulation, toilets are just the tip of the iceberg. And here's the iceberg. The Federal Register contains all the rules and regulations issued by the federal government. This is the 2011 edition, 82,414 pages, and its regulations delve deeply into our lives, well beyond toilets. For instance, page 12,527. This regulation classifies milk as an edible oil, so farmers are subject to rules on oil spills. Or how about this one from page 27,543, which makes it illegal for anybody but licensed dentists to transport another person's dentures. The expansion of federal regulations is largely based on a broad interpretation of the Commerce Clause. That's the part of the Constitution that gives the feds power over interstate commerce. When people complain about the federal government sticking its nose into their business, it's almost always laws drafted under the Commerce Clause that they're complaining about. And if you spend much time listening to congressional debates on the subject, you're likely to hear these three words.
Wickard versus Filburn.
Wickard v. Filburn.
It started with Wickard v. Filburn.
They're talking about a Supreme Court case involving an Ohio farmer named Roscoe Filburn. It was the middle of the Great Depression, and Farmer Filburn was looking for a cheap way to feed his livestock. So he planted 23 acres with wheat, and that's when the government stepped in.
Good morning. Hiya.
To shore up wheat prices, the federal government had placed limits on production, and Roscoe Filburn's wheat crop exceeded those limits by exactly 239 bushels. So they hit him with a $117 fine. But Filburn insisted he was growing wheat just for his own use and for his hungry animals, and that it never entered into commerce at all, much less interstate commerce. The case ended up in the Supreme Court, which found against Roscoe Filburn. The justices held that even though this particular farmer's wheat did not enter the market growing his own, meant he was refraining from buying wheat from somebody else. And if lots of other farmers around the country did the same thing, it could drive down wheat prices. And that would affect interstate commerce. That decision came down in 1942, and it opened the floodgates to federal regulation of anything remotely related to commerce. The precedent of Wickard v. Filburn has served as the legal underpinning for federal laws covering everything from labor standards to consumer protection to endangered species. And it was at the center of the debate over the Affordable Care Act in the spring of 2012.
The Filburn case is the outer reach of the Commerce Clause.
Freedom! Freedom!
So,